Hello, everybody, and welcome. Thanks for joining us today. We are excited to be here again. If you joined us last week, we talked about taking church online with services and prayer. So we are in a kind of new, uncharted territory for what's going on right now with COVID-19 and shelter-at-home requirements and having to kind of scramble to figure out how we can still be the church even when we aren't supposed to be meeting together in close quarters. So today our topic is community outreach and care. And our goal in doing this, and this is partnering with the Church IT Network, is to come together, hear from people in the community who have creative ideas that they're trying, and just giving advice and input from people who have been there, done that, and or trying new things and are figuring things out as we go. But also really to resource and encourage everyone, because that's the goal, is to come together in this. It's not about what system you use, it's about how we can continue to be the church together. So today we are joined by another great group of panelists. So we have our co-host, Jason Lee, who is from the Church IT Network, and Chris Cahias, CEO of MinistryPlatform. They will be kind of being our hosts today. I am the lovely coordinator, Megan Christensen. I am the product development director at MinistryPlatform. And we have lots of great panelists today. So first, just a couple housekeeping things. We want to remind you that we are recording, so we will get this out to you as soon as we have the video processed and posted on our website, so you can share it with other people. Also, when we share that, we also will include links to a ton of the resources. So anything that's mentioned during the webinar today, we will be writing that down and getting that on the page with the recording, so that you can also have a one place to go to get any of those links. Yeah, again, last week's recording already on our website with a ton of great information, and we hope that that is a blessing to you. Also, as always, if you have any questions, submit them down in the question chat, and we will be monitoring those. We have a few teed up questions that we got from y'all earlier this week, and we'll be throwing those out to the panelists, and then as we have time, we'll also add any additional questions that you put into the queue. Also, please share this with your network. Again, our goal is to just resource the church right now, give everybody all the tools that they could possibly need to navigate this season, and do that on social media. We will start with panelist introductions. Chris, who is on our panel today?
A friend, a wonderful person, somebody that anybody who's ever been to a Church IT Network has learned to hate and love. No, I'm just kidding. One of my best friends on the planet, Jason Lee. So, Jason, welcome. Glad they have you on the panel and be a host. I don't know how many Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde hats you can switch in one event, but we're going to find out today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Thanks for making this event happen, and we're excited as the Church IT Network as well to help sponsor this event and make it available to a wider audience beyond the customers of MinistryPlatform. And just hopefully this is a service to not just MinistryPlatform customers, but anybody that's doing ministry online in this interesting season of life.
We concur. That's our heart too. It's an interesting time, and we want to get the church, Big C Church, connected with all the right resources that are out there, because clearly we can help in some areas, but we can't help in all of them. And last week was hilarious, because if you weren't here, we experienced all the problems that the church has been experiencing, in that GoToWebinar completely failed. We've heard rumors about Facebook and YouTube having similar problems over the weekend. So we'll continue to pray for everybody, but we're glad Jason is on.
Yep, glad to be here.
Next, we got Jennifer Miles. Hello, Jennifer.
Hi, Jennifer.
Welcome back. Jennifer works as the product manager at Living as One, and we're super stoked to have her here again. Do you want to say anything quick, like how busy was Living as One this past weekend?
Oh, we had over 1.3 million unique viewers this weekend. So we were pushing a lot of data.
That's awesome.
It's a fun time to be IT in the church, isn't it?
Yeah.
We've got Jennifer Decker. We're so glad you're here, and glad you're going to share what's going on at Westside. So thank you for being here today.
Yep.
Next up, we've got Carrie Taliaferro. We're so glad you're here, Carrie. And Carrie is, it says records administrator. Is that really your title?
It is. Been that way for a lot of years.
She does so much more than that, you guys. But I'm just super excited that Carrie's here from Brentwood. From the MinistryPlatform community, Carrie has been, like, I would say, the pioneer in doing care. And I'm just can't wait to hear how they're using the tools and doing care right now. So happy you're here, Carrie.
Thank you.
And then we got Stephanie Johnson, who is the IT director at College Park Church. And again, just super excited to have a little bit of roundtable time talking about care when, people can't come to the building. So super stoked to have you guys.
Okay, well, we will start with our first question for the panel. Jason, would you like to kick us off?
Sure, yeah. So we want to ask a few questions and just get feedback from the panel. And then also, just as things come up during today's conversation, feel free to post those in the chat, and Megan and the team will make sure to get those in front of our panel and hopefully get a few of them answered. Really one of the questions we're just wanted to pop around and ask is, how can we be the church? How can we care for people? How can we bless those in our community who are maybe shut-ins, that are in nursing homes or hospitals, maybe are people who are sheltering at home, or how are you caring for healthcare workers and first responders? So just really want to open that question up to the panel, and what are some things that your church has started doing in the last week maybe to care for these different segments of people who might normally be in your building on a given weekend, or might normally tune online, or maybe there's a calling ministry that your church has that's been suspended. What are some of the ways that you're trying to stay connected with your church and bless the people in your community as well?
I'd like to start maybe, and I'd like to start with Matthew 25, that one of our Pastor Compassion shared with me about another project that we're doing. And he said, the king will say to those on his right, come, you who are blessed by my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world. For I was hungry and you gave me food. I was thirsty and you gave me drink. I was a stranger and you welcomed me. I was naked and you clothed me. I was sick and you visited me. I was in prison and you came to me. Then the righteous will answer him saying, Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty and give you drink? And when did we see a stranger and welcome you, or naked and clothe you? When did we see you sick or in prison? And the king will answer to them, truly I say to you, as you did it to one of the least of these, my brothers, you did it to me. And I think sometimes the people that have been shut in, or the people that don't have internet, are the ones that get left behind a lot of times in what we do. And so one of the things that we tested on Sunday was a phone live streaming. It's phonelivestreaming.com. And it worked really well. And the couple that tried it out do not have internet. They would break it if they had it. And but they were so excited when they were able to join in the prayer service that we had, and they were able to join in live. And they recognized one of the names that had requested prayer. And so as soon as it was over, they called them and were able to pray with that family, and just having them be able to participate. And so now we're looking at taking that broader and working with our production team. And our elders and our deacons are taking upon themselves to call everybody that's kind of on their list or in their area. And one of the ladies posted on Facebook, she said, I got an unexpected call from a deacon. After I hung up and told Denny about it, I started to cry because I was so thankful that we go where we go. And it was just a super blessing, and she's proud of it, that she was blessed in that way, because they're stuck at home, they're a vulnerable population.
Absolutely. Other things you guys are doing, or ideas you want to share?
This is Jen.
Go ahead. We've just been using online giving for texting for prayer. We have been using care cases like we have continued to do for people in the hospital. We're not visiting people in the hospital, but we are still calling them every day and checking in on them. And there's still surgeries happening. There still are a few other medical needs that are happening. So using care cases for that. Our deacons like Stephanie are calling all the people, I think age 60 and over, just to check on them, make sure they don't have any needs. We did realize that we don't have the resources we need for people who don't have technology. So we're trying to find some ways around that. We have our nurture team is our women's group. So they're continuing to make freezer meals. So even though that our buildings are closed, we're still allowing them to bring in freezer meals for some people who are shut in. And those seem to be pretty effective right now.
I am the director of the foster adoption ministry, so I'm kind of filling in here on this call. But what we did is we contacted our local foster care agencies and asked, which there's 6 of them, we asked for their top 10 families that would really be hit hard by this, whether they might be grandparents parenting a child, or a family with a medically fragile child. So we did a resource drive before we got our shelter at home order. and got those resources out to those families. But something that we started yesterday that has taken off is a community care Facebook page. And that is just really based on Galatians 6:9-10. And let us not grow weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap if we do not give up. So then, as we have the opportunity, let us do good to all people, and especially those who belong to the household of faith. And I know that a lot of what we were doing was meeting community needs. Like, we instantly panicked because here in Kansas, they canceled school for the rest of the school year, which means there's a lot of kids who aren't going to have meals. There's a lot of kids who aren't going to have schedules. We think foster care disruptions are going to go up. We think there's going to be additional abuse. And so we were trying to meet those needs in the community, but we realized we almost jumped to those needs and over the needs in our church family. So we created this Facebook page, and it's organically taking off. Like, I was able to post the needs of a family who needed a bike last night, and by 10 a.m. this morning, someone else in the church had delivered it, and it was hands off for me. I just made the connection. And so we've been doing that. Not great for people who aren't on Facebook, but right now that's the most interactive tool we have available. You can't have a conversation over emails, and you can't text everyone, these sort of things. So that has been working really, really well.
Yeah, so a couple different things that we're doing. One is, last week we just felt a burden for caring for those that are caring, and so and realizing how much of a challenge it is for small businesses in our community right now. So we've just reached out to 4 or 5 local coffee shops and said, look, put a sign up that, and we provided signs, I think, eventually, that says, hey, show your medical badge or ID and get a free cup of coffee on us. And so we're picking up the tab for the coffee shop owner, and the healthcare workers are getting a cup of coffee for free, courtesy of Northwoods, just for us as a way to say thank you. You know, they're putting their families themselves at risk. And so what can we do in order to do that? So we started that last week. We've had huge response from just people just sharing that on, you know, saying thank you, Northwoods, thank you for, you know, and then they name the coffee shop on Facebook. And we've seen that in several of the local towns that we have campuses. And it's just cool to see in smaller towns where we've partnered with a local coffee shop, and the one coffee shop owner in Lakin, Illinois, our campus pastor called him and just said, hey, this is what we want to do. And the man was in tears. He's like, I don't know how my business is going to stay open, and for your church to reach out to me and say you want to use my business as a partner in our community and to serve our community. It just gave us an opportunity to minister to that man who owns the coffee shop, pray with him, and then financially bless him. Now, obviously, we can't do that for every small business in town, but we're trying to find, partnerships for that. There's also a place in town that is a local ice cream shop, and we said, hey, can we give a scoop of ice cream to healthcare workers? And he's like, well, you can, but you're not going to pay for it. I want to donate it. And so just to see how different people react to that has been really cool. Now, obviously, the shelter at home order and our restaurants and bars at closing has hampered how we're doing that. Because several of the local places don't have drive-up windows, and so they weren't able to take our offer on that. One coffee shop couldn't find enough sugar, and so they had to close. I'm like, well, can we go buy sugar for them? I don't know. But so it's just trying to find ways to bless our community, to be a blessing to the healthcare workers. And our leadership is really focused right now on just this idea. This is a time not for the church to shrink back, but a time for the church to lean in. And how do we maybe not so much, be evangelizing to every single person, but how do we lay the groundwork now for when things get back to normal? People will remember this is the church that reached out and helped us, and beginning to till that soil now for a harvest that may come in weeks and months to come. And so that's really where our efforts are really focused right now, is how can we do things that feel normal to people and feel like an extra bit of kindness to them, for no other reason of being the hands and feet of Jesus in our community. And so we're kind of focusing on that. And also just trying to bring hope to our community. We've had a great response to our nightly devotionals. So we're using the church online platform and broadcasting a nightly devotional where the pastor teaches for 3 to 5, maybe 20 minutes, depends. And then in the chat, there's just people praying with one another and typing their prayers and typing requests, and then having private prayer chat. And we've just gotten feedback from a lot of people that that's just bringing hope every day to them, that there's something for them to look forward to after they've watched the news and seen how bad the reports are, that they're tuning in. And we did a day of fasting together as a community, and then followed that up with communion on Friday night, and saw almost 5,000 people join us online for a prayer and fasting and communion service. So not your average prayer meeting, but really just trying to figure out, unique ways to reach out to people. And you know, Stephanie, you bring up a great point of just not everybody is going to have bandwidth or the tools to join a stream or a live broadcast. And I don't want to add yet one more thing to sustain, but I'm also thinking about who are we missing? What are the people that aren't joining us that need the same hope and the same encouragement, and what pieces of technology do we need to pull back a little bit and trying to find ways that are maybe a little more low tech? You know, maybe that's, you know, I've been encouraging our ministry teams today. Have you called all your volunteers? You know, checked in on them, just ask them how their family are. You know, that's not a high tech broadcast. That's just simply picking up the phone and making a bunch of phone calls. You know, are we reaching out to attendees?
Before you answer the next question, let's go ahead and dive into the next question, because you're like starting to roll through all of our questions here.
Yeah. There you go. I forgot about that next question. So I'll ask the panel, you know, what are the best avenues for you to continue to support your congregants and reach people? And then how's your church staying in touch with staff or volunteers or attendees? So, you know, those are some of the ways that we're doing it. What are you guys looking at, and how are you answering that?
Can I answer the last question and then answer this one at the same time?
Sure.
Yes, I forgot you, Jen. I'm so sorry.
Oh, you're good.
Go ahead, Jennifer. We need Jason to, you know, can I mute? I can mute him. Okay, no, keep going.
So our community has been really intentional about trying to connect not only with our members, but also trying to connect with our neighborhoods. And so we have asked our members to actually go out and put, a lot of our people have taken a little half-inch piece of, like half a piece of paper. And here's my phone number, here's my email address. If you need us to go and get groceries for you, we're available to do that. And really encouraged our members to also participate in their local neighborhood. So we're doing the phone calls. If we're not hearing from someone, we also know where people are, right? And so we connect them with someone else in our community to help kind of adopt them right now. So that's kind of what we're doing. Now for our next one, what are the best avenues? I've talked to a lot of churches the last 2 weeks, and I've been really encouraged with how everyone is doing this differently. One of my favorites right now that I'm seeing is that I've worked with a few churches who are actually just doing a daily Zoom or a daily Google Meetup, and they send that phone number out by text for people who don't have internet. And that way their community can just get on, and they say, hey, we're open this 1 hour, come and log in. And I have some that are doing it just for like their kids ministry. I have some that are doing it for everybody. And so it's a great way to just kind of keep your community connected and being able to see them on the screen, but also include those people who don't have the technology, because there is a phone number available that way.
Yep, absolutely.
So yeah, I've been really encouraged with what I'm seeing.
Yeah, one of the things that we're in the midst of working on is partnering with a food bank. We have members of our church that are on the board of this particular food bank. So we've purchased pallets of food, and they're working on a distribution process because we want our people to be able to use that to minister to their neighbors and to the community. So I don't have all the details yet. Can't tell you where the food is or anything like that, but that's kind of the intent with it. And then just with staff and volunteer, small groups are using Zoom and having their small group meetings that way. We're using, as a staff, mostly Teams, probably going to be moving to Zoom for our staff meetings. And then we're still working on just multiple ways of keeping our attendees in touch with everybody.
Carrie and Jennifer.
Yeah, we are.
You go ahead this time.
Carrie and I always want to talk at the same.
That's on me. I called on you both, so that's on me. That's a host fail, okay?
We're having a staff meeting tomorrow on Zoom, but I know the staff has already divided up the list of membership, and they're starting first with their volunteers and the older population, and we're calling each one. We have a form we fill out as we've talked to each one, so we can turn around and post those needs on that Facebook group and just check in with everybody. So that's been good. And our small groups are meeting on Zoom. So so far, that's kind of the plan in terms of staying in touch with volunteer and attendees.
Carrie?
Yeah, we're pretty much doing the same thing with life groups, encouraging them to meet on Zoom or any way to connect, really. Reminding them that they can get on mobile tools, get on the My Groups on the portal to find emails and phone numbers to keep in touch with people. We created a landing page on our website that's specifically for coronavirus that basically has all the information of live streams, what's going on, what the CDC recommends, what our plan is. All of our buildings are closed, of course, at this time, so everybody's working from home. Luckily, our IT department had implemented Office 365 about 2 years ago, so we were completely ready to just pick up and go home virtually problem-free. Much easier than it would have been had we not had things in the cloud like we did. So we're all meeting on Teams, trying to keep connected, send regular emails, using publications and subscriptions to sync with MailChimp, because ministers don't have their admins at their side. So now they're having to learn how to send emails quickly. I'm going to start my own. I think I'm going to start sending a 3-minute video a day. I have all of our staff cornered in their house looking for something to do, and I'm going to see if I can get them to watch a 3-minute training video every day, just to remind them where things are, how to do it. And I know one other thing I was going to say is our congregational care minister has been posting some blogs online about mental health and how to stay healthy at this time, and offering support. Again, still using online giving for texting in several ways to try and get people to just text their information back.
Our church has a counseling department, and so they have been, I don't know what platform they are using that is HIPAA compliant, but they have moved all of their counseling appointments online. And like my son has one this afternoon, and I tried to get a different time, and she's booked for the day. So it's just amazing that they're able to do that online. So I know that's another way we're doing that care ministry. And then I posted, I started a Bible study for foster adoptive moms. I put the sign up out. I'm offering it at 2 times because there was such a high interest. So this was a Bible study I'd wanted to lead for these moms for years, and we could never make it fit into getting the room reservation right, the childcare right, and all of that. And then all of a sudden we have all this instant margin. So our support networks are meeting online over Zoom, like, Post-Abortion Lifeline, our Grief Share, and all those sort of things. Those are all meeting on Zoom. And now we're actually having new Bible studies come out from people who've never been involved in a Bible study, just because this opportunity has given them time.
Yeah. Let me ask this question. Some of you keep mentioning Zoom. So what tools, obviously Teams for staff. What are people using? What are the tools that churches are recommending? Hey, dear small group leader, go use this. Hey, when we're clearly, Teams seems to be a win. I've heard it on the last 2 webinars, but what tools are you actually suggesting to the body to use, i.e. our lay leaders, small groups? So we've heard Zoom several times. Are there any other tools out there?
Well, I just know the reason we're not using Teams is because a staff member had to host the meeting for the volunteers. They couldn't self-host. That's why we had them use Zoom.
Yeah, so we've had a discussion this morning, even among the board of directors for Church IT Network, and we were just talking through pros and cons of different tools. And Teams is a great tool for the staff. It's even a pretty good tool for the volunteers. There's a little more of a threshold for needing logins. You can do a lot of the video conferencing without having a login, but there's a little more of a threshold there. And it really is more of a video conferencing tool. It's not a create community tool. And so one of the big pieces that I'm hearing a lot is, on Zoom, you can have up 100, I think, people and have 100 videos on your screen. Whereas Teams, you're only going to see 4 people at a time, or the people that have talked most recently. So if somebody's not talking, you're not seeing them. And that's not really the person that you don't want to see right now. You want to see the person that's not actively involved in the call. So that's where some pros and cons are, or Zoom and Teams. We've played around with a product called Jitsi, which is a free tool, and it is super lightweight and super easy to do video conferencing. I don't know how many apps I have installed on my phone right now, just testing different video tools to see how easily and how quickly can we get people in there. Even this morning, I've been working with our Get Encouraged prayer team, which we usually have prayer appointments where they have 2 or 3 people in a prayer room and they pray over somebody, and they're physically together, and they're like, how can we do this virtually? And we need, the requirements are there have to be 2 prayer people with the person getting prayer ministry. I'm like, well, that rules out just calling them, so then you have to kind of think through some of the requirements of that, and how do we schedule that, and can we use a conference call for that, or can we use a Zoom meeting? And we're even looking with our homeschool co-op, how do we facilitate community for our moms and kids when they would normally meet in person, and how do we facilitate that? And there are pros and cons to each platform, and some of them are free and some of them are not. And I think at this point, we're in a season right now, free is not good. you know, you might have to pay a few dollars for a tool to get something that isn't gonna crap out on you. Probably a bad word to use, but isn't gonna die on you, you know, when you invite a couple hundred people to participate. So I think part of that is just, you know, there are free things, but free may not be the best choice right now.
Yeah, I saw Jennifer shaking her head. So what were you
Which
shook your
one?
head around Jitsi? So
Oh, yeah. So I've been playing with 3 different tools the last 2 weeks, all for very different purposes. Jitsi is one of them because you can watch something together. Like you can put a YouTube video on the screen and have a watch party around it and then talk about it. So it's a really nice way to kind of share community for like a small group who's using digital content and still have your small group be able to watch it all together. Zoom is another one where I've been using it in really intentional ways. I run 3 small groups a week where we learn oral Bible stories. And we use it specifically because we can break out into smaller groups within the Zoom call itself. So we can have one-on-ones to practice the stories. We can have groups of like 3 or 4. So like when Jason's talking about being able to pray with like 3 people in the room, Zoom allows you to kind of disperse the room and have control over that.
nice.
And so I've used Zoom for that. And then I've been using Facebook groups specifically for groups that can't meet at a specific hour right now and just need asynchronous conversation. So there's 3 different things I've been using in the last 2 weeks.
Can a phone or PSTN, someone calling in on the phone number on Zoom, can they be put into a group in a meeting?
Yep.
I'm asking that personally because I need to know that for a question when I get off this call. So I'm gonna use that time for this. Another one that we're kicking around is Marco Polo. I think it's the stupidest app name. And as a lifeguard, I hate the name. I hate hearing Marco Polo, but it really is a cool app for video calling, and it's non-real time. So meaning I can record my video, and whenever the other person is available to watch it, they can watch it and then record a response back. And you actually can do Marco Polo groups as well. You can add people to a group with a URL. So you can send that URL out, and then whoever has it gets added to a Marco Polo group. So it's a nice way to not have to be there in the moment, but still be able to do a video call. And so, I mean, the name really does fit for what it does. I just don't like it. But Marco Polo is kind of an interesting one when we're throwing out there too as well.
No, that's really interesting. That's great. I only know about Marco Polo because Jason Marco Polos me with his kids on a pretty regular basis. So, but I get back at him when he's got inches of snow on the ground. I take pictures of my family at the pool and send them to him. So it's always good.
Our student ministries has been publishing the student ministry lesson on, I think it might have been a Vimeo link for the kids. And then immediately after it stops, their small group leader pings them for a Zoom discussion, which has been really cool to keep the students connected.
Yeah.
We broadcast for the first time our children's ministry on Church Online platform, and actually had quite a few kids in the chat. And we didn't expect that at all. We expected moms and dads to be in the chat, and it was cool to see the kids interacting with one another. So I think right now is just a season of just try things, try something. If it doesn't work, don't do it again. But then be ready for it to be bigger than you expected, and maybe to have to run a replay or do it again. One thing I wanted to say last on this question is, and I'll provide these as a resource in the notes for the webinar, is I sent 2 things to our staff this week, and one is how to work from home in a healthy way, how to have some boundaries of your time in a healthy workspace, and how to have healthy conversations with your family about expectations of working at home, and just things like that. I sent that out to the staff, and then I sent out to our leadership team how to lead a remote workforce. Just some ideas and some tools to think about when you can't turn and sit next to the person that you're used to sitting next to in a cubicle. What do you do, and how do you lead into that? And how to use, for us, it's Teams, a group chat or a personal one-on-one chat versus a Teams conversation. When are those things helpful, and how can communicating that way be good? Also, just talking through, using your mobile phone versus a Teams call. What does it communicate to your employee when you're calling them on their mobile from your mobile, or you're texting them from your mobile to their mobile, that may communicate some urgency that you don't intend. And so finding a agreed upon method of communication within your team that sets fair expectations. And when can I ignore what you've just sent me? Or when do I have to drop everything because you've just communicated in a certain way? And so I think that's just a healthy season for us to be having conversations with our staff teams about how am I going to communicate with you and what are my expectations, because we're not sitting across the table from one another, and there is an opportunity for disruption of just our normal communication style. And so I can provide those links, those attachments to Megan, and she can put those in the show notes.
Nice. We can certainly come up with some things to help too, since we've been a fully distributed company since day one. We would love to share some thoughts. And it is funny, you're right, because I mean, I won't pick on anybody, Megan, but I did call her the other night after 5 just to leave a voicemail, and I got the boom, do I need to do this tonight? I'm like, no, it's after 5. You can always ignore me after 5. You never will, but I mean, yes, there are definitely the escalating. I Skyped you, I Teamed you, I emailed you, I texted you. Well, by the time we've made it to text, it's pretty big, so great. All right, I think we kind of hit on this a little bit. Say again?
I'm actually curious. So Jason, because now your team is distributed. So I have always worked remote for Living as One. And now that my developers are working remote, I have, anytime I'm in my office, I have a Google Meetup that they can just come in and participate in. Have any of you guys started doing that with your teams, where there is just a standing video conference?
We don't have a video conference open, but we created a group chat for my team this morning and just called it Stream of Consciousness. And so I'm asking them, hey, when you go to lunch, just say, hey, heading to lunch, or hey, I'm back for lunch, or hey, I got a question about this, or I have this ticket I don't know what to do with. Because in teams, you have conversations, and it felt like I didn't need to give a title for everything that I needed to just ask a question for. So that lowered the threshold a little bit. And it was just, it's an ongoing stream of everything we can think of. And we've talked, for some of our web events, I know that our social team does a video call while they're hosting Facebook Live, so they know who's responding to what prayer requests and that kind of thing. So we are using a couple different of those things, but for us, it's really helped us to have that chat open where we can just pop in and say, hey, I've got a question or I need help with this, and we know the rest of the team is, at least when they're working, they're monitoring that.
All right, let's dive into this one. In the interest of, we want to get through some of the other questions, maybe only a couple of you answer this, because I know we kind of touched on the breaking through tech barriers with the elderly a little bit already on one of Jason's rants. So if we can, maybe we'll get somebody other than Jason to talk about how they're connecting with elderly, but maybe we've already covered it, but if one or two of you just want to share anything that maybe you haven't shared already.
We're pretty much just doing phone calls at this point, determining who doesn't have social media or the internet, that we can't communicate with them in other ways, and just kind of building lists of people who are phone only at this point.
Cool. Yeah, I think we covered this one just by saying not just relying on web forms and technology, but going old school phone as well. So, all right, let's go to the next one.
I have one thing to add, is that one of the things that we're doing too is just finding out what their needs are and connecting volunteers, whether it's food or a task or something, connecting them to each other so that somebody else can help, come alongside and help our elderly who can't get out or shouldn't get out.
Nice, very nice. Again, we may have touched on this a little bit, but let's be specific. Like, what kind of outreach are your churches doing? And I guess we'll try to cover some of these for a minute or two. And I guess the bigger piece, how can we meet these if we're stuck at home, or how are you addressing that, or cheating as it may be?
We've been told if you're delivering food that you are completely within parameters of our shelter and home orders. So we're doing that. We also have a blood drive tomorrow, which seems crazy, but I'm not sure how that's going to work. But we've been doing these food boxes at least for the foster families with medically fragile children, and we just do a ding dong ditch where we're really encouraging the social distancing, and we're really encouraging people not to stand and interact, but kind of like the old school prank, but you're actually taking bread and peanut butter to someone. So we've been doing that. We had a ton of people respond. I don't know where all these people got all the toilet paper and Clorox wipe, hand sanitizer and diapers that no one can seem to find, but they did. So we kind of had a clearinghouse. And then as we called people, we were able to dispatch volunteers with prepared boxes to go out to those things. That went really well. And I think we're just going to have to do it again because our shelter and home order here in Kansas City is for the next 30 days. So we just have families who either have lots of kids or can't get out.
Wow.
You're required to shelter at home until March 20 or April 20th.
Yes, April 24th.
And I thought
Yes,
the week before Easter was rough.
Yeah.
Yeah, ours is, oh, go ahead, Jennifer.
Okay, so I'll add two things that specifically to get out into our community. Here, Nextdoor is a very popular app. So we're regularly posting in Nextdoor and doing the same thing. Is there anything that we can help with? So we're reaching people outside our church community. The other thing is our community has established an emergency response center that is run by volunteers in our police department. And they are looking for people to come and help man phones. They're looking for people to coordinate with the homeless shelters, because a lot of our homeless shelters now, we've had to close the facility and spread them out into schools. And so connecting with your city's emergency center is one way to help as well.
Nice.
And our shelter in place allows you to specifically exempted or considered religious organizations as essential. So that gives us a lot more leeway in what we can do.
I don't know that I have a lot to add on that. I wasn't able to connect with our missions minister yet because we're still kind of reeling from the tornado we had a couple of weeks ago. So we have a lot of communities that don't even have homes, who can't even shelter in a home. So we're trying to find supplies for people who are now in because of the virus and because they don't have a home. And so resources are just few and far between and trying to figure out where to start.
Big whammy.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm going to say that I'm putting my eggs in a basket that MinistryPlatform is developing. Do we want to take a second to kind of show a tool that you guys are getting ready to bring to market?
Well, I wouldn't say to market, just bring about. So yeah, we can go ahead and pivot for just a minute and Megan can show that.
Sure.
I guess I'll say this is kind of born out of a joint talking with Jason, talking to some of our other church leaders. We were heading in one direction with our development team and decided to just make a complete and total pivot because, hey, if we can help with what's going on right now, then all the better. But I'm going to let Megan talk about that because she is really good at it.
Okay, so yes, as Chris said, we have kind of stopped the presses on everything else we were working on in order to kind of figure out how we can meet the need right here, right now that all of our churches are experiencing. And this definitely was born out of a heart of how do we help the church be the church in a time when the world really needs the church, the hands and feet, as multiple people have said on this call, which is so true. So we are launching a new application, hopefully, Lord willing, by the end of the week. We are working very hard with all hands on deck to get this out the door to you as fast as we possibly can. So Need Connect basically is two major components. The first component is soliciting help or requests for help. So user would come in and they would be able to say that I need help or I can help with something. The church can define a list of areas for help or what we're calling need types. And if that doesn't quite meet what the person was hoping for, they can kind of do a write-in option after they complete this to say, you know, I would like prayer and a friendly phone call or something like that, or I can help with that. They are then prompted to give their basic info or log in. That's always an option as well. And then that's going to create a record in the platform for either a need that needs to be fulfilled or for someone who's offering to help provide that need. Providers have to be reviewed and marked as approved in the platform. So there is that checkpoint in there for you guys to have to make your decisions on how you want to vet those particular need providers. But then once somebody has been approved as a provider, they get access to the Connect board. And this is going to list out any area that they have been approved in. So my particular provider has been approved to shop for food, medicine, or supplies, to pray, or to give a friendly phone call. And I can come into the board and I can claim, I can say, okay, I'm going to help with this. Again, like this is not complete. So you're seeing things kind of as the airplane's being assembled, but I wanted to at least get you guys a visual on this. So you'll be able to say that you want to help with that, and then you'll get a little bit more information about that request as far as how to contact that person to coordinate whatever it is that you have agreed to do. Needs can also be assigned by the staff in the platform. So if you want your staff members kind of doing some of the assignment, that is also possible as well. And then you can also, if you've been assigned things, you can come in and see more information on what specifically has been assigned to you, and you can mark it as complete or like decline it. When you decline it, it'll go back on the board for somebody else to claim. So we're hoping that. Go ahead.
Fantastic.
Looks cool.
Yeah, like I said, we're working really hard to get this out to you guys as soon as possible in hopes that this meets an immediate need to, like I said, be the hands and feet right now when we can't meet together. So
nice.
Yes, I'm super excited about that.
Well, we're excited to share it too. I mean, it's definitely been, like Megan said, all hands on deck. The guys were working over the weekend to really try to crank it out. But to make sure this is not like swung one way, this is just a way. This is we are data people, so this is how we think and how we go and we operate. But I mean, I love the other ideas that have been put here too. I mean, the next door, the emergency, joining in with like emergency response centers. I love that. Like hearing that, just to say, one of the things, find out where people are already doing and join in. You don't always have to be the originator of every idea. This is fantastic stuff. I do want to spend, like, if we can, I'm sorry, Megan, are there actual questions we wanted to answer? I knew I wanted to end with that last question more as a challenge to everybody watching than necessarily as an actual question to answer.
Yes, we do have a couple good questions I'd like to run through real quick in the chat for y'all. But would you be willing to share what call form your staff is using when they're making their calls?
Yes, I think so. I don't have it yet because I was so focused on the resource drive, but I will send it. Yep. Jason Morris has it for sure, so I'll get it from him.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, we can get that linked on the resource list. And then also, has anybody used the group YouVersion prayer request or any other resources for collecting prayer requests?
Nope.
Not yet. I saw that feature come on recently, and I've been thinking about it, but haven't given enough brain cycles to make it happen. But yeah, what the functionality is basically you can ask for prayer in a group within YouVersion, probably the same group that you maybe are reading a group plan with. That was something that rolled out in the Bible app probably about a week and a half ago, maybe 2 weeks ago.
I think our student ministry team is doing it. Their small groups are doing it.
Awesome.
It's the only social media my 13-year-old's allowed to have, so they treat their YouVersion like Facebook. It's hysterical.
That's awesome.
Jeff at First Baptist is asking if you guys have created like a special email address or anything that requests can come into that's maybe monitored by multiple people on your team or anything like that to try to facilitate multiple people kind of helping with the needs and that workflow.
We did. We created a shared mailbox called updates at yourchurch.com that people can email. It fits with our webpage. It's basically updates where we keep all the recent updates to our plans. And then we have multiple people monitoring that mailbox.
Yeah, I believe we did similar to Stephanie as well.
I don't think we set up a separate email, but we just have a need help ? On our COVID-19 updates page, and they can click on that, and then it gets reviewed by the care team and then sent to the right staff department.
We're trying to reuse as many of our existing things as possible. So we already have a form that people can fill out for prayer requests, an email address that they can fill out for prayer requests. We're starting to push people to those things and just ramp up the personnel that's behind it. We created a page just for our response to this, to the coronavirus stuff, and just northwoods.church/vitals. And that has to do with our pastor's series that he started is Corona Vitals. What are the vital pieces of your faith? And so we're around that and trying to, that's a term our congregation's familiar with. So it's just the vitals page. And everything that we're talking about in our daily devos, everything we're talking about weekend service, links are getting posted there for people just to kind of have one place as a resource. Another tool we're trying to get rolled out pretty quick is since we use Teams so heavily, I think it's called Simple Chat. in the show notes. But basically, it's a chat bot that'll pop up on the website and let somebody ask a question, and then on the back side, it'll notify our staff and teams. We have it currently using Slack, but our staff aren't using Slack, so we're kind of moved into a tool. So it's actually, we use that for customer service on our MinistryPlatform portal to help people with giving and groups and those kind of things. And we're planning to possibly slide that over to the Vitals page just as another way to give people a way to interact with staff, or just to click a button that's already on the website and begin to chat with them.
Awesome. And anybody for using Zoom, just question on, are you providing Zoom host IDs for your lay leaders, and kind of, is that getting expensive, or kind of how are you managing your Zoom account as far as that goes?
Or is it free 40 minutes?
Is it, yeah, or are you just doing the free 40 minutes and making that work?
We did, we told our small groups and volunteers to use the free 40 minutes. And then we got the business plan, and set up probably 12 kind of generic hosts that, like, we've got 4 or 5 that our community ministry is using. So they're using those for counseling, and they're using those for Bible studies and men's prayer breakfasts. They had the most need for it, and then we've split the other ones amongst the other ministries. They have to share.
I read something last night that you can make, I think it's mostly education sector, but you can make a request to Zoom to lift the 40-minute limit on a free login. I don't know what the requirements are for that, but I do know that it's K-12 for sure. But
Right.
I also saw it for some homeschool stuff. So it's possible you can actually, as make a request as a nonprofit and see if Zoom will limit to you.
I know when I asked, the person I asked said, no, we were doing that for China, but I don't think we're doing that here yet. And the last thing I saw, they were just kind of, Zoom was taking a wait and see to see whether they were going to lift that or not. But they did offer it free to all K through 12.
Awesome. All right. Do we have any more questions, Megan, or can we go back to that final?
That's it. We cleared out the question queue, so we are good to go there. So like Chris said, we're excited about Need Connect, but again, that we even hesitated showing it today because we didn't want to make that be the focus of today.
We couldn't get away with it. Jason Lee was going to talk.
Jason was going to talk about it whether we did or not, so we didn't have a choice. Okay, so we wanted to have a little fun, and thank you for your time today, especially because we know in this season coffee helps. So we did a random winner for a Starbucks gift card. Craig, you have won a Starbucks gift card. Thank you so much for joining us today, and we hope that you all got some useful resources, and most of all, some encouragement. And we will get in contact with you, Craig, to get you that. And then also we are going to give you guys a chance to win a Starbucks gift card as well. So go post your top takeaway from today, a resource, a note of encouragement, maybe a scripture verse that was shared, a tip that was shared, something on Facebook or Twitter with the hashtag #TakingChurchOnline. And the first 3 people who do this after the webinar today will win the gift card, and we'll direct message you with that info. So again, thank you for joining us on Thursday. We will be meeting again with some of these same panelists and a few new ones to talk about classes and groups. And we are looking forward to continuing the conversation. So thank you guys, all you panelists. So Stephanie and Carrie and Jennifer and Jason, thank you so much for your time today. Chris or Jason, would you be able to close us in prayer?
I think we both can. You want to split it?
Sure.
You want to go first or second?
It doesn't matter to me.
I'll go first. Heavenly Father, thank you so much just for today. Thank you for each of these panelists. Thank you for each of the churches. Thank you for the churches that are hearing this now, that will hear this later. I just pray and ask that for pastors and leaders, that there would just be such an imperative to meet the needs, not just of the body, but of the community at large. We know that somehow, some way, in the midst of this virus, in the midst of all that you're doing, you are moving. You're taking distractions away. You're removing things that have maybe filled our time from sports and other activities. And I just pray that there would just be a spirit of revival amongst our churches. I know that's a horrible thing to pray right now for some people, but I believe you're moving and wanting to move even in the midst of this virus. So thank you for our churches. Thank you for our pastors. I pray for our pastors that they just have the strength to do what's right, even through criticism and even through all the things that are coming up. And we just pray that you use these tools to further the kingdom in your name.
Jesus, we just pray for on church, the whole church around the globe that and we will say this was our world and lives are changed. And you would take for evil, you would use it for good, and you would use it for your good, that you would reach people who are lost, who are far away from you, and would send them in their place of despair. God, there would be just churches around the globe that people would be hearing the word of Jesus and the hope. And for the first time through this pandemic, I pray that when people are at their lowest of lows, that you would reach out through your local churches, and you would provide them a hand of assistance, a hand of care, that God, you just arrange supernatural moments for people to be able to get the hands and feet of Jesus around the globe in our country and in our communities. God, I pray for just the church workers and leaders who are on this call, God, that just as they are hearing ideas, that you would just encourage them and they would take something that is unique to their church and they would take the strengths of their ministry, God, and they would put them into work in their communities. I pray that the leaders on this call, God, would be known in their communities for being caring and compassionate. And they would be known for the church caring about their local neighborhoods and people around them, God. I pray right now that you would give our attendees in our congregation the courage to have conversations with their friends and their neighbors, that they would be able to speak about the truth and the hope that comes from you, Jesus. We pray this in your name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, everybody, for being here. We look forward to doing another webinar with you guys again.
Great,
Awesome.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys.